All right, back on July 5th, 2024, I wrote a article on my website entitled How Do You Find Purpose in Life? This very much ties to the last episode of the podcast where I was talking a lot about being a security guard and at times struggling with the lack of prestige, the lack of income that comes with that career field. Not necessarily because I feel like I need more money, but because sometimes I get caught up in what are old ideas of success that I still struggle to let go of from when I was a young kid growing up. The ideas I grew up with was it's all about a high income, it's all about prestige and title, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not going to say that any particular person gave me those ideas. I think it's just kind of what I assumed and inferred based on the social cues and messages that I was getting as a kid growing up in the 90s. But this big idea of purpose in life is something I've been chasing ever since I left the engineering world. As I've said often, graduated in 2005 from college with a degree in electrical engineering, started working in corporate America, hated it, so I left. Now, ever since then, one of the big reasons I left that job was I didn't feel personally a sense of purpose in doing that job. And just to help us out here, when I say purpose, I'm really thinking about a couple of things. I'm thinking about an activity in which I have a genuine interest, curiosity, passion, even, if you will. And then I'm also thinking about that activity contributing to the well-being of others. And so those are really the two things that I think about when I think about having a sense of purpose. Something that I'm intrinsically interested in combined with that activity contributing to the well-being, life improvement, if you will, of others. And of course, I didn't have that in engineering. I had really forced myself to go down that road again because I was stuck in this old narrative. But as a security guard, something that I talked about a little bit last time is it really allows me to spend my time and energy working on content, writing, thinking about ideas for my writing. It allows me the energy and space to work out and practice martial arts the way I want to. I have done an amateur MMA fight that's been about 3 years ago now. When I was 39 years old, I practice jujitsu and boxing each once a week, hoping to ramp that back up here pretty soon. But when I was training for that MMA fight, I was in the gym 4 or 5 nights a week, and I think it would be really hard to pursue these other activities outside of a working environment if I had a job, a more prestigious career in corporate America, higher demands, higher energy demands. I think it'd be hard to pursue those other things. But when we talk about purpose and looking for that ever since I've left, one of the things that I've realized here recently is I think what I've fallen into the trap of often since I left engineering is thinking that purpose needs to be this big outsized impact on people. And especially in the era of social media and gaining followers and having millions of views and going viral, I think sometimes I've fallen into this trap or this pitfall of thinking that to have purpose in life or even to feel like I'm a successful human being, I need to have a bunch of followers online or have this huge impact on people all over the world. And, I still think I have a valuable message in taking ownership of your life. I still think that message is valuable for everyone. But the reality of reaching everyone, I think, is highly dependent upon luck and chance. And so, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting to have millions of followers online, or working towards that, or wanting to make millions of dollars, or wanting to work in a very prestigious career, or any other number of things that are, how would I say, seen more traditionally as markers of success, maybe, or seen in our current internet world as a marker of success. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with pursuing those things, and to a large extent, yeah. I mean, it would be awesome to have millions of followers. I think, because I don't know, because I've never experienced it, but I presume that put it like this: I'm not sharing this stuff online for it to not spread. So, yeah, if it goes nuts, then that's kind of the point. But to go back to all those things, whether it be business, prestigious career, bunch of followers online for your content, etc. There's, yes, you must work hard, but there's a large measure of luck in all those endeavors. And luck is something that I cannot control. What I can control is being a good human being, having the self discipline to control my urges, having the humility to look at myself when I'm making mistakes, maintaining awareness about my attitude and how that energy affects the people in my immediate surroundings. So for me, purpose, it used to be this like more ethereal thing to me, but I was still chasing it, even though it seemed like this big grandiose thing at times. And I think that was a pitfall for me in times past. Now that I'm older, I'm starting to become more aware of actually how powerful it is, but also how difficult it is just to positively impact the people in our immediate environment. And so to me, when we talk about purpose, genuine interest, positively affecting the well-being of other people, I would think most people would say that they are interested in being a good human being, or interested in understanding what it means to be a good human being, and hopefully being able to display that in their own lives. So there's the interest portion. And then two, I would argue that when being a good human being and pursuing that, you tend to positively impact those around you. And what's interesting about thinking about purpose in that way, as I was writing this article, is it's a much more accessible idea. And it also means that purpose doesn't have to be something we go chase. It's something that we can enact like right now, no matter what it is we're doing, whether we're at home, whether we're out in the public, whether we're at work, whatever the case may be. Choosing to try to wrestle with and be a good human being that has positive influence and, on others, and who models in their actions the things that they hope to see in other people, right? Like, that's always available to us. That's always something that any one of us can do. And in times past, I have gotten so focused on this idea of a prestigious career, and of course making a lot of money, that I have lost sight often. And I think this is something that I'm going to have to remind myself of constantly, to remember, like, it's hard enough to just be a good human being. And it takes a lot of effort, and it's an easy concept. Conceptually, it's a very easy thing to understand. Having a positive attitude, being empathetic and honest with other people, modeling certain behaviors that you would think would be helpful to other human beings. It's easy conceptually, but I think difficult in practical everyday execution. And sometimes I think we're chasing these other metrics of success that we, like I said, we often really can't control, and we're forgetting about who we are in the present moment. And I'm when I say that, I'm really in reference to myself, because I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of doing this often, actually. And so, how do you find purpose in life? Maybe it's not something you necessarily find out there. I think maybe it's more about being grateful for where we are in life, and again, trying to think about what are the behaviors and attitudes that we want to see in the world, and how are we ourselves modeling those behaviors and attitudes. I mean, even just I never thought about it a lot back when I first became a security guard 5 years ago, but even just being in really good shape, working out on a regular basis, and practicing martial arts, like that was starting to positively impact my coworkers. Even like because when I first started security work, I was working in a hospital as a security guard. Even like doctors, nurses, seeing me in the kind of shape I was sort of like this positive influence. And when you're in good shape, oftentimes it sparks up conversations with people about diet, exercise, and healthy lifestyle choices. And so and for far too long, I have looked past that and been looking towards, how much money am I making, and do people respect what I do for a living? And what's becoming more and more powerful is like, who am I as a person, and how do I show up, and with what kind of energy do I show up to any environment I'm in? And it makes me think about what it makes me think about. And I don't want to spend too much time just talking about physicality, but what it makes me think about, what this article makes me think about, is when I was a kid growing up, there was this plumber that came to our house to work on. There were some pipes down in the basement that needed some work. And this guy shows up. Me and my parents are at home. He shows up to the door. And I must have been around like 10 or 11 years old. And this guy shows up. We walk him around to the back of the house. And this dude, I remember, black guy, shaved head, bald head, clean shaven face. And I mean, he was jacked. He was ripped, man. Like, he was in such good shape. And I still remember that to this day. And what's so ironic about that is, growing up, I never thought to myself, I want to be like that man wearing a suit headed to that office building, or I want to be like that teacher, or I want to be like that engineer, or that doctor, or that lawyer. But when that guy showed up to their house, I remember thinking, I want to be like that dude. No question. I don't know if maybe he was like doing some amateur bodybuilding, because he wasn't gigantic, but it was very clear that he worked out. And he just because of his physical appearance, honestly, he just had an air about him. And, this man was a plumber. He was a blue collar tradesman. And it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be a plumber, but I saw something in him that I wanted to emulate for myself. Because like I said, like I'll say often, I was an obese little kid, timid kid, really lacking in self-confidence and wanting to grow out of that. And he was one of the only people that I ever came, kind of face-to-face contact with, that physically represented something that I looked forward to being when I became an adult. I never saw that face to face in any other adult, just on TV, like with Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone. But here this guy was a living embodiment of what I aspired to be. And he wasn't, a CEO of a company. He wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't some multimillionaire. He was a hardworking, blue collar plumber who saw fit to keep his body in shape. And that imprinted on my memory as a 10, 11-year-old kid, and I've never forgotten about it. And so I tell that story just to show like the power of being present with our everyday decisions and how we live our lives, and how purposeful that can actually be in adding to the lives of others. I mean, it's been over 30 years since I met that guy that day. And I think that was the only time he ever came to our house. And I don't remember his name, but I've never forgotten him. And he wasn't cocky. He spoke to me and shook my hand. which like meant the world to me because I admired him so much for being obviously being a physical specimen. And it's something that has had a massive impact on me over time. Now, and I'm not saying that engineers or CEOs shouldn't be looked up to by people. Look, if that's what you want to be, go for it. What I am saying is that sometimes like I always say it, like, man, there's a lot of just normal jobs out there. And we have to remember that anytime we're around other human beings, and I'm number one in needing to remember this, anytime we're around other human beings, we have the opportunity to positively impact other people. And it seems trite and it seems silly because we live in this world of constant comparison with social media and the internet and going viral and getting millions of followers and views. I think we can become tricked into thinking that that's what real purpose is or what real success is. And I think as the internet evolves, as the way we communicate evolves with AI and all these things, I think we have to develop a heightened awareness that still what is most important is how we ourselves behave and then how we treat the people around us and how we impact the people around us. So, as always, folks, something to think about. This is the most important skill in life podcast. Remember, personal ownership is the most important skill in life. Personal ownership is taking responsibility for our actions, beliefs, overall direction in life. Go to travisdale.com and you can read my book, Adapt and Overcome, or you can go purchase my book so you can read it. Adapt and Overcome, 3 Principles to Master the Most Important Skill in Life, Personal Ownership. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. You're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow the podcast and also subscribe by email on the website, travisdale.com. Remember, every episode comes from articles that I've written on the website, usually months ago. And so if you want to get the ideas early, make sure you subscribe to the blog. And I will talk to y'all next time.